Hey everybody, today I am at the Los Angeles Auto Show taking a look at the updated 2026 Kia Sportage. This is the longest running nameplate in Kia's lineup and the best-selling Kia, which is why I shouldn't be too surprised that it's received a pretty major refresh for 2026, because not everybody was the biggest fan of the somewhat controversially styled front end with that really exaggerated boomerang style turn signal and daytime running light. As you can see on the outside, the front end design is a massive change. Let's take a look at the rest. Going in for a closer look, you can see that we still have the tiger nose grille, but it's changed in format. So it's actually a little bit taller and a little bit more like the Kia Sorento. They've also borrowed some styling cues from the EV9, like the Opposites United theme. That's what they're calling that particular look with the daytime running lights. Lots of Ice Cube style touches, like the Ice Cube style LED fog lights below. This is a hybrid model that we're taking a look in the sort of robin's egg blue here. We have the stacked Ice Cube style headlights over there. Of course, you'll be able to buy a regular gasoline model and a plug-in hybrid model still as well. As we move on over to the side of this model, you'll notice we get some new wheels in the various different trims. Kia's really been going all in on very angular wheel designs, lots of squares and crosses. But the size and the format of the Sportage is basically the same as before, because it was all new 2 years ago, so there wasn't really much need to change the whole format of the vehicle. Of course, we get a restyled rear end as well, with the new taillights back here, full LEDs as you'd expect, Sportage badging, and the new Kia logo there as well. As before, the Sportage is available with 3 different engines under the hood. There's a naturally aspirated 2.5-liter 4-cylinder in the base model, producing 187 horsepower. No changes happen for 2026 on that. It's still an 8-speed automatic, and you have the choice of front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. But increasing numbers of Kia shoppers have been opting for their excellent hybrid system, which is why the hybrid and the plug-in hybrid model, that's right over there in gray, have received some pretty substantial updates for 2026. Most notably, more power, thanks to more powerful electric motors. This is basically the same updated hybrid system that we find in the new Tucson as well. The regular hybrid produces 231 horsepower. The plug-in hybrid bumps that up to 268 horsepower. And what's still unique about this system is that we have a 1.6-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, and then on this side we have a traditional 6-speed automatic transmission. That automatic transmission has also received a few updates, and it uses a regular mechanical all-wheel drive system. So if you want hybrid fuel efficiency, but you also want better weather traction, you want a Sportage, because we have that mechanical all-wheel drive system that's definitely going to be better in the snow and ice than the e-all-wheel drive setup in the RAV4. Since this is a refresh, not a redesign, there's still a ton of room inside the Sportage. This is one of the larger options in this segment, and I think it really shows. The seat bottom cushion is actually about as high as it will possibly go. In a more natural seating position for me, I have, still a little bit of headroom going on up here, maybe about 2.5 inches or so. With this seat in this position, let's check out what's going on behind. One of the big benefits to the size of the Sportage is obviously the rear seat accommodation. This is a lot better for taller people, people with longer legs, or of course, child seats. So if you have a family with rear-facing child seats, you're going to find significantly more room in here than in something like the RAV4. Headroom, it's also pretty decent, although we have a little bit less than we had up front. And of course, this model has the optional big panoramic moonroof. Kia continues to have a few funky touches on the inside, like these really eccentrically shaped headrests. Here's what's going on. This is a little slot where I suppose you could dock a tablet, but you could also hang clothes, like if you have a jacket or something like that, or a shirt, you could hang that on the back of the headrest. It definitely has a peculiar theme to it, though. We have other practical touches, however, like USB-C charge ports on the seats. I do find that a pretty practical place to put them, because if you are using that upper section as a tablet dock, that's a good place to plug in. Then, of course, we have big air vents here in the center, and a center console hump that's not too large, so it makes that center seat a little bit more usable. Also making the center seat more usable is the fact that the rear seats have a recline mechanism. So actually, they can get pretty reclined, as you can see there. A little bit different. Let me recline this other one so you guys can see that. But that's the most reclined, and then that is the most upright. So it's a pretty significant range of motion for the rear seats. Obviously, that's going to impact the cargo capacity in the back. So if we go back here, That has long been another reason to get the Sportage, regardless of the version, is the amount of cargo capacity we have in the back in this generation. It's a huge, huge cargo area, and with that seat in the upright position, you can see it squares off the cargo area, really allows you to put more stuff in here. If we look under the load floor, we still have a spare tire. So if you're interested in a hybrid with a spare, this is one of the few out there, and you could even fit a full-size spare tire under there if you wanted to. Now, unfortunately, if you get the plug-in hybrid, you don't get a spare tire under there. I'm gonna go ahead and grab the camera from Martin, who I'm borrowing from Redline, so everybody wave to Martin there. Let's take a look at the interior of the Sportage, because we get a pretty significant infotainment refresh. This now uses the updated software that we first saw in the Kia EV9. It's their latest infotainment software with their own homebrewed navigation. Of course, it's gonna support wireless Android Auto and wireless CarPlay, wired as well via the USB ports down there. The only downside to this particular format is this little button right here and the display. We saw this first in the EV6. It's continuing here, where this panel functions as climate control and infotainment controls. When we owned an EV6 for about a year and a half, I found myself constantly grabbing this knob, and it was always in the wrong mode, since that's power and volume and the temperature for the driver's side. On the other hand, we get the updated instrument cluster and of course that infotainment system, so I think that's an okay trade-off. The steering wheel, this is the same modern Kia design that we're going to be seeing spreading across the lineup. It has a flat bottom and a flat top, sort of a squircle, I guess you could say. We have the drive mode selector over here as a button on the steering wheel, the terrain mode over here, which is kind of cool. You're not going to find that obviously in every model. This is the more off-road oriented version. We have the latest in their active driving assistance system, so we have the driver monitoring camera right there on top. Moving over to the center console, this model has a traditional T-bar style shifter. If you get the other versions, the plug-in hybrid or the hybrid, then we're going to get a different shifter in the center console, a rotary knob shifter. I kind of wish every version had that, because this is a little bit bulky and it does make accessing that Qi wireless charging mat a little bit more difficult. Over here we find the controls for the heated and ventilated seats, heated steering wheel. Similar cup holder arrangement to what we've seen before from Kia, with these little slide out sections that allows you to dock larger devices or store larger devices in there, or use them as cup holders depending on exactly what you're wanting to stuff inside. Softly padded center armrest, opening that, it reveals a 12-volt power port and a reasonable amount of storage space, although some of this center console area I think could be a little bit better used for storage. Down here we have buttons like the auto brake hold button, hill descent control, auto start stop enable disable, parking sensors, etc. Moving back up to the dashboard, you can see that the entire dashboard shape has changed a little bit, and that's partially because you can now get a head-up display optionally, although this model doesn't have that. So instead of the actual 10-inch head-up display, we just have this actually honestly slightly awkward bump in the dashboard instead of that in-dash display. Wondering what that would look like if you did have the head-up display? Well, that's what that would look like. It would be exactly the same sort of pyramidal binnacle, only it would have the opening in the top for the LCD for that head-up display. This is the plug-in hybrid trim, so as you can see, we get a different interior. I like this interior color combo the best. They had a light gray and a charcoal here that they were showing off. You can see this one has the nutty brown and charcoal wrap, dual-tone steering wheel there, same flat bottom design, same terrain mode button, which is kind of cool. But the center console, this is a bit more practical in my opinion. It's the rotary knob shifter. I'm not usually the biggest fan of some rotary knob shifters, but I like the ones where park is the button in the middle, because it makes 3-point or multi-point turns easy. You just toggle that side to side for reverse to drive. In Fords, where park is over here, where reverse is, that's kind of tricky, because in those multi-point turns, I often find myself just putting the car in park accidentally. Basically the same interiors going on in this model, except for the color combo there. And as you can see, even in this trim, we just get two-way adjustable lumbar support for the driver. Let's go ahead and take a look at the cargo area, because that is obviously one big difference in the plug-in hybrid model. Plug-in hybrid model does not get a spare tire under the load floor, not because of the battery per se, but because of the 12-volt battery. Oddly enough, that's where it lives back here in the cargo area, and then we find the charger, the AC charger for that main battery pack right over there, and then there's a 12-volt lithium battery module right over there. That's a tiny battery to help the system all function nicely together. I really wish that Kia could have packaged that all a little bit differently, because I swear they could have stuffed it somehow in the corner of the cargo area and still given us a spare tire in the back. If you want a plug-in hybrid with a spare tire, you can get the RAV4 Prime, but of course it's not going to have a regular mechanical all-wheel drive system. And the Sportage, as you can see, still gets a regular mechanical all-wheel drive. That's the rear differential, just in case you're wondering. Even though Kia seems to be going all in on the new J3400 charge connector, back here it's J1772 still. So just in case you're wondering, it doesn't appear that they have the same drive to replace the connector with the J3400 or NECS connector on their plug-in hybrids, at least not yet. Now, unfortunately, at this time, I don't have any pricing information or indeed any official fuel economy numbers for the updated Sportage lineup. I expect that the base engine is going to be exactly the same as before. The hybrid and the plug-in hybrid system, that's anybody's guess, but probably really close to what we saw last year, and of course, the closely related Hyundai Tucson. I love the fact that Kia is still giving us the practical and efficient hybrid, and of course, the plug-in hybrid, which I think is my favorite version of the Sportage. I love the electric range. I love the mechanical all-wheel drive system that we find in Kia's hybrid systems. It definitely makes it more sure-footed in bad weather versus the one that we find in the RAV4. And the fuel economy difference is actually quite small. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a minor price increase thanks to the extra tech that we find on the inside, but again, it's going to stick probably pretty close to the outgoing models. Let us know what you think about all that down there in the comment section, and stay tuned for a full video on the refreshed Sportage just as soon as we can get our hands on one for a complete week. See all of you later. Okay, let's take a look at the interior on this.